Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this council meeting of the 19th of September 2023, which is being held in person in the council chamber here at Ferris Boulevard, South Morang, and the meeting is also being live streamed. I'm Lydia Wilson, Chair of Council, and I'd also like to introduce my administrator colleagues. Firstly, Peter Duncan.
Good evening, everybody.
And Administrator Christian Zara.
Good evening, everyone.
I'd also like to introduce our Chief Executive Officer, Craig Lloyd, and ask that he introduces the members of the Executive Leadership team in turn.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. So I'd like to introduce Agata Hemalevsky, our Director of Community Wellbeing, Sarah Renner, Director of Customer and Corporate Services, Debbie Wood, Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Frank Joyce, Executive Manager, Strategy and Insights, Janine Morgan, Executive Manager of Public Affairs, Jacinta Stevens, Executive Manager, Office of Council and CEO, and Sarah Rowe, Manager of Economic Development. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. On behalf of Council, I recognise the rich Aboriginal heritage of this country and acknowledge the Wurundjeri Willem clan and Tongarong people as the traditional owners of lands within the city of Whittlesea, and I'd also like to pay my personal respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to now read our diversity and good governance statement. At the city of Whittlesea, we are proud of our diversity and the many cultures, faiths and beliefs that make up our community. We strive to be an inclusive, welcoming city that fosters active participation, well-being and connection to each other and this land. We commit as a council to making informed decisions to benefit the people of the city of Whittlesea now and into the future, to support our community's vision of a place for all. We have a number of acknowledgements this evening, and if I could perhaps make the first acknowledgement, which relates to ex-Captain Chris Maries of Doreen CFA. We are very saddened to hear of the passing of Doreen CFA ex-Captain Chris Maries recently, and just a bit of background about the very significant contribution that he has made. He joined Yarrambat CFA in 2002, and right from the outset, his commitment to the CFA was unwavering. Whether it involved cooking hot dogs in the catering caravan or orchestrating an elaborate gala fundraising dinner and auction, Chris was there, wholeheartedly dedicated. After several years, Chris moved to Doreen and transferred to Doreen CFA, soon after taking on the role of captain. He played a pivotal role in the remarkable transformation of Doreen CFA, elevating it from a tranquil rural fire brigade to the thriving entity that it is today. Chris had an innate ability to step forward whenever challenges arose, approaching each obstacle with determination and fervour. This same dedication fuelled his efforts in firefighting, propelling him to key positions of leadership. He ascended to the role of Vice President and eventually President of the Volunteer Fire Brigades Victoria District 14 Council, where he advocated for the interests of all fire brigades within CFA District 14. He was a champion for community safety, and when the role of Brigade Community Safety Coordinators was rolled out by the CFA, Chris, as captain, was always one to celebrate a brigade's connection to community. He embraced the role and created a culture of connection with his community, a legacy that is still very strong today. Chris also championed the cause of volunteers relentlessly, with one of his standout achievements being his advocacy for presumptive cancer legislation for firefighters, a cause he championed even before realising its personal relevance. Additionally, his instrumental role in enshrining the Volunteer Charter into the CFA Act has continued to be a source of benefit for volunteers, even after his untimely demise. Chris was a CFA representative that attended Council's Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee, Council's Municipal Fire Management Planning Committee, and always contributed positively to both committees, and we want to particularly acknowledge his great contribution to Council as well as to the community. We send our very heartfelt condolences to Chris's family and friends and members of the Doreen CFA and the wider CFA family. Thank you. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. On Thursday, the 31st of August, I had the pleasure of attending the Whittlesea Reconciliation Group's 21st anniversary celebration here at Prac on Council grounds. The WRG was founded by elders and community leaders and has an exceptional legacy of advocating for reconciliation and self-determination over the last 2 decades, 21 years in fact. Some of its achievements include advocating for improved Aboriginal employment, community programs and services aimed at addressing disparity and inequality. The WRG has also been a major driving force behind the Aboriginal gathering place, which will be built on Wurundjeri country at Quarry Hills Regional Parkland. The anniversary celebration was an absolutely fantastic way to recognise the invaluable contribution the WRG has made, and those past that are unfortunately not with us now, and those that are, but also how they will continue to make an exceptional contribution into the future. And I wish them all the very best of luck for their future contributions, and congratulations.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. And we have a third acknowledgement this evening. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. It's my pleasure tonight, on behalf of Council, to congratulate the Babup Willem Aboriginal Child and Family Centre on its achievement at the recent National NAIDOC Awards. Babup Willem was recognised for its outstanding work with families to raise strong and proud children in a culturally rich and sensitive environment. They're based in Thomastown. This Aboriginal community-controlled education, health and wellbeing organisation helps children aged 0 to 5 years to reach their full potential. Babup Willem is special in that each child's Aboriginal identity underpins their educational program and experience at the centre, helping them to thrive in the world. One of the ways this is done is through its Connection to Country program, which sees the children step away from the classroom 1 day a week to learn in and from country. Our sincere congratulations once again to Babup Willem Aboriginal Child and Family Centre and its staff for this wonderful achievement.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. I note that all administrators are present at this council meeting. Administrators, if you have a conflict of interest in any item on the notice paper, you may verbally disclose the type and nature of the interest now, but you must make a declaration immediately before consideration of the matter in question. Are there any items for which you have a conflict of interest to declare?
None, Chair.
No, Chair.
And I also have no conflict of interest to declare. I now seek a motion to confirm the minutes of the following preceding meeting, which is the scheduled meeting of Council held on the 15th of August 2023. Do I have a mover?
So moved, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put the matter to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. If we now move to public question time, and we have 3 public questions this evening. Council allows up to 30 minutes for public questions, statements, petitions or joint letters from our community to be read. Questions, statements will be read by myself and responses will be provided by the Chief Executive Officer or a delegate. The CEO and I have the ability to decline any questions that relate to matters outside the duties, functions and powers of Council, is discourteous or disrespectful, defamatory or intends to prejudice or insult someone. Just to note that all questions will be responded to in writing and will also be included in the Council meeting minutes. So the first question this evening is from Yolanda Avery, and I understand that Yolanda is not in it. Is it in attendance this evening? No. Yolanda's question is, could you please advise the residents of Epping, Vic 3076, when an Epping Public Library will be built, location of construction and time frame of building's completion? Your response to the above question in detail would be appreciated. And if I could ask our Chief Executive Officer to respond to that question.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Yolanda, for the question. Council has undertaken a library service review which will be considered at tonight's Council meeting. This review identifies the evolving role libraries have in the community. Libraries have become places not only to borrow books, but places which provide a range of services, programs and activities. The report being considered by Council this evening proposes the future delivery model for libraries as multi-purpose community hubs, with library services co-located with complementary services and opportunities for community connection. The Council report also proposes the library hub at Gallada Community Centre in Epping North becomes a permanent library hub in January 2024. The mobile library bus will also continue to service the community through its current weekly stop at Epping North. And for further information, we encourage you to read the Council report and obviously stay tuned for the rest of tonight's Council meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CEO. And I do think it's very timely that Yolanda's question this evening is on the evening that we're considering the library review. And as our CEO has indicated, we'd really encourage Yolanda to read the very comprehensive and detailed Council report. Our second question this evening is from Graham Conway, and Graham is in attendance this evening. And his question is, many people still complaining about the sexually explicit material in our libraries targeted at children. Will the Council consider removing this material, especially the gender reassignment material? And again, if I could ask our CEO to respond to that question.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Graham, for your question. The content and material in libraries are the responsibility of the Yarra Plenty Regional Library. YPRL has adopted the Australian Library and Information Association Statement on Free Access to Information, with one of its main tenets being asserting the equal and equitable rights of citizens to information regardless of age, race, gender, religion, disability, cultural identity, language, socioeconomic status, lifestyle choice, political allegiance or social viewpoint. The YPRL Collection Development Policy sets out the guidelines for the collections provided for the community, and the policy is available on the YPRL website. The policy clearly states that they will provide a collection which reflects and supports LGBTQIA+ communities, and the YPRL has a right and a duty to include in the collection items that reflect our diverse membership and promotion of their libraries and their communities as safe, accessible and welcoming places for all, including but not limited to members of the LGBTQIA+ communities. YPRL actively source collections that support and encourage pride, care for each other and truth. They also provide accessible formats and promote inclusion. While the library takes every care in allocating resources to the appropriate areas of the library, the reading and viewing activities of children and young people under 18 are the responsibility of their parents or caregivers. Parents and caregivers are the most appropriate people who can guide the selection of appropriate materials and oversee their own children's development. Any items deemed explicit are classified as adult and are shelved in such a way. The City of Whittlesea fully supports the Yarra Plenty Library Service approach, as I've just detailed, and notes that they align fully with Council's vision for our city as a place for all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CEO, for the comprehensive response. Our last public question this evening is from Andrew Morrison regarding the Voice to Parliament, and his question is, at last month's council meeting, there was a question asked about the 38 councils around Australia actively supporting the Voice to Parliament. They are allocating ratepayer funding for this campaign. Is the Whittlesea Council considering following suit? And if yes, why? Can Council please advise the community how many Aboriginal organisations or community members were consulted, if any? And again, Craig, if I could ask you to respond to that question.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Andrew, for your question. Consultation was undertaken with the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation and the public positions of other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander organisations and groups were investigated through informal conversations and/or their publicly stated positions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CEO. We have no petitions or joint letters this evening. So if we move on to general business, and we'll be working through the agenda, and I just need to note at the outset that we do have a number of very important policy and strategic matters for deliberation this evening. The first item is item 5.1.1, Recreational Reserve Draft Master Plans Community Engagement. And if I could invite the Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Debbie Wood, to come forward to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. This item is around some master plans that we have for 5 of our local reserves. We have 244 playgrounds in the municipality, as well as 1,500 local parks approximately. So it's really important that we deliver these strategic directions for some of our parks, and really happy that we can present this report to you today. I've got Andrew, the Coordinator of Open Space Planning, with me today, and he'll run you through the report. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, for the introduction. The City of Whittlesea manages over 70 municipal level parks and reserves. These are open spaces that are larger than 3 hectares and generally have an increased provision of facilities. The report being tabled tonight is for 4 master plans covering 5 municipal reserves. All of these reserves currently have organised sporting clubs, built form of some sort, be it a pavilion or community house, and an average level of embellishment for the broader community, usually a playground, a shelter and some seats. The development of the master plans provides a holistic approach to managing open space and is a direct action from the Livable Neighbourhood Strategy as well as the adopted Open Space Strategy. We have developed these draft master plans with the consideration of earlier consultation completed last year. The discussions with the broader community and stakeholders indicate that there is a want to spend more time in the parks and reserves, facilitated by a high provision of park amenities such as accessible paths, lighting, seating and shelter. In addition, the community would also like to see an increase in informal recreation, such as exercise equipment, multi-use courts and play spaces, which is in line with our adopted open space strategy. We recognise that the existing sporting clubs and community houses and kindergartens play a large part in the communities that use these reserves, and the master plans continue to support these clubs and services. We are seeking council endorsement for the public exhibition of the draft master plans for community consultation. This second phase of consultation will allow for the refinement of the plans to ensure we are and can in the future meet community and stakeholder expectations within council's available resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I have an initial question, if I could, and I'm not sure whether, Debbie, you might want to respond to it, but I note that the community consultation period is from the 11th of September to the 20th of October. Can you indicate when the final master plans might be coming back to Council for adoption or consideration?
I'll let Andrew answer that one.
The consultation ends on the end of October, and then we'll refine the plans, and it's likely that the finalised and refined master plans will come back early next year, if not later this year.
Thank you. Administrators, any further questions?
None from me, Chair. Thank you.
If there's no further questions, I'm happy to move this item, but with some amendments to the recommendations as follows. That Council 1, commence Phase 2 community engagement activities for the Recreation Reserves draft master plans for Layla Recreation Reserve, Layla. Comma, Lowwold Recreation Reserve, Epping. Comma, Mernda Recreation Reserve, Mernda. Comma, W.A. Smith Recreation Reserve, Layla. Comma, and Sycamore Recreation Reserve, Mill Park. And in relation to number 2, it will be refine draft master plans in response to community feedback and prioritise actions for implementation for council consideration and adoption. Thank you. Do I have a seconder with those, for these new recommendations?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I just wanted to very briefly speak to this item. The purpose of making the recommendation explicit is simply so that it's a standalone recommendation, and importantly, just to note that the final draft plans will be coming back to Council for formal deliberation and consideration. I just want to acknowledge the enormous amount of work that has gone into the development of the draft master plans, and they've already been the subject of community consultation. They're very, very important open space assets for the municipality, and I particularly note that there are a couple in Layla, which is the older established part of the municipality. So I really strongly support the wonderful work that's occurred to date, and I'll be very much looking forward to the community feedback and the prioritisation of some of the actions and hopefully our consideration in future deliberations in relation to our capital expenditure plans. So thank you again to officers for the exhaustive work that's occurred. Administrator Duncan.
I think you've summed that up beautifully. Thank you, Chair. Well done to the team.
Thank you. So on that note, I'll now put the item to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again. Item 5.2.1, Yarra Plenty Regional Library Service Review. And if I could ask our Director of Community Wellbeing to provide an introduction to this item. Thank you, Agatha.
Thank you, Chair. So this report presents the findings of the Library Service Review, which was undertaken to inform our long-term strategic direction for our library service and determine our service model to ensure that we continue to meet community needs into the future. And I will introduce Anthony Trail, who is our Manager of Active and Creative Communities, to take us through the report.
Thank you, Agatha, and thank you, Chair. In December 2022, a report noting the commencement of the Community Plan Action to undertake a library service review was presented to Council. This resolution also resolved to construct a Mernda library and also Kirp. They are on track to be opened later this year and early next year, respectively. The library service review was designed to undertake a couple of things. One was understand the trends in the library service in regards to book utilisation and visitation. It was to create plans for our infrastructure needs to match the growth, more specifically the Western Growth Corridor, which is expecting an extra 100,000 people in the next 10 to 12 years. It's to guide the transition of the model with YPRL to comply with the new Local Government Act by the year 2031. And it's to develop innovative ways to meet changing community needs into the future as they change rapidly through this period. Some of the ideas that this library service review asked us to look at is a 24/7 library, hubs with flexible floor spaces, and agile mobile bus library service, just to name a few. The review also considers the 2 current trials located within the recommendation, which is to continue the Gallata trial through its success of utilisation, and to discontinue the Olivine Place and convert that to a mobile bus library stop due to its insufficient floor space to operate effectively. The key items from the resolution before you tonight requests and seeks Council to endorse the continuation of the City of Whittlesea partnership with YPRL, Banyule and Nillumbik Council Shires. The endorsement of officers to work with the YPL to honour transition plan required by the new Local Government Act. Endorse the library service review recommendations in attachment 1, and to endorse a staff library service model for all current and future libraries, noting the value that our community have in librarians when they're attending. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Administrators, do you have any questions in relation to item 5.2.1?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
No, I also have no questions, but I'd be very happy to move the officer recommendation for this item. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Just in speaking to this particular report, I just wanted to note that I strongly support all aspects of the report and the officer recommendations. And I think the key highlight for me is the endorsement of the continuation of that regional shared service model with our current partners, who are obviously Nillumbik Shire Council and Banyule City Council. And that agreement has been in place since 1995 and I believe has served our council and our community as well as the broader catchment very well. And in fact, the partnership between YPRL and council has never been stronger. You highlighted a number of the key aspects of this review and some of the recommendations for additional funding for the permanent library service at Gallata Community Centre, and also investigating future library provision in Doreen and so forth. I really just wanted to congratulate council officers again for what I see as being an incredibly sophisticated piece of work and a really wonderful vision to ensure that our much loved and very valued library services continue into the future to be so responsive. And I think that the fact that there's been a real focus about looking at how libraries might change into the future so that we've got a whole range of different models, whether it's a destination library, the branch library, click and collect hub libraries, mobile libraries, outreach programs, and even trial pop-up libraries, I think is really, really commendable. And as I said, I think it's a really sophisticated piece of work. So I strongly support the officer recommendations. Administrator Zara.
Well, thank you, Chair. I'd certainly support your comments, Chair, and the way in which you've explained and I think set out very strongly the importance of this work. I think one thing I'd reflect on in considering this report is the vital importance of libraries, and I think that's something which really comes through so strongly from the report and is reflected in these recommendations. There will be hardly a person, I think, who might be tuning in tonight, or indeed who lives in the municipality, who hasn't been to a library at some point, whether it be growing up or in some part of the activities they might participate in, or taking kids, relatives, whatever. libraries are important to, I think, nearly every single local ratepayer and resident. I think one of the great things about this report and this important work is it reflects and maintains that continuing importance of libraries to the city of Whittlesea, but not in a static way. I think that's really important, Chair, because if organisations and institutions don't change to meet the contemporary requirements, they won't have much of a future. And I think the great majority of people in the city of Whittlesea would agree, I think with all of us, that we want our libraries to continue to have a vibrant future and play just as much of an important role as they did in our own lives growing up, whenever that might have been, to the next generation and the generation after that. So I really applaud the innovation that is contained in this report, the flexible modes of delivery, and also the way in which the report recognises the additional value that can be provided to the community through programming and doing different things using that floor plate of space that's provided for libraries around the municipality. And Chair, I'm sure you find this in the work that you do and the conversations that you have. When you go into a regional library or a library in any location really around any part of Australia, people are not just there reading books. People are there for activities for children and older people and different groups within the community which take place in those library settings. And you also see people who might be conducting a bit of work or sending a few emails or assisting themselves to some of the space and some of the resources so they can function in terms of working away from their desk and be more effective and productive too. And those are all very important additional functions which have evolved over the last decade or so. So it really is wonderful work. Libraries in the city of Whittlesea have an even brighter future, I think, Chair, thanks to this great work by our team.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 5.4.1, Public Transparency Policy. And if I could invite Jacinta Stevens, our Executive Manager of the Office of Council and CEO, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. On the 15th of August 2023, Council resolved to release the Public Transparency Policy for community feedback. Between the 18th and the 1st of September this year, the policy was available to the public on Council's Engage Whittlesea page. The page attracted 81 views, however, no community feedback was provided. The policy highlights the importance of open and transparent governance and is aimed at reducing freedom of information requests for information that can be made public on Council's website. The policy also includes, amongst other important matters, a definition of what public transparency is in a local government context, Council's commitment to proactively and informally releasing information, inclusion of the public interest test on how Council will apply it when assessing whether to make certain information publicly available. This report being considered this evening is seeking adoption of the Public Transparency Policy.
Thank you. Administrators, do you have any questions in relation to the Public Transparency Policy?
No questions, Chair.
I also have no questions. So do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4.1?
Happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. And a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Very briefly, Chair, it's good work which has been done and we've put it out to the community for their additional feedback and there was none, but it is still a good process to have gone through that additional important step and to provide the opportunity to members of the public to contribute to what is an important policy. So I thank our team for their work and happy to support this resolution.
Thank you. Administrator Duncan.
I think Administrator Zara summed that up nicely. Thank you, Chair.
I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. So if we move now to item 5.4.2, which is our governance rules. And again, if I could invite Jacinta Stevens to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. This report is seeking Council's adoption of the governance rules and election period policy, noting that the election period policy will be embedded into the governance rules. The governance rules set the governance framework for councils making decisions and govern the procedures for how council and delegated committees will run. Both the governance rules and election period policy were out for community feedback on the Council's Engage Whittlesea page between the 18th of August and the 1st of September this year. The Engage page attracted 81 views with no feedback received on either document. Some highlights to the rewritten governance rules include all agenda items to be considered and not to be moved en bloc. There will be reduced speaking times to allow meetings to progress with minimal delay when we return to an elected council. The Chair can limit questions directed to officers and direct the debate on the matter commence or resume if they believe that the matter has been adequately addressed. The CEO's delegate will read out public questions received and the CEO will provide the responses. Responses to public questions will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting and not responded to individually after the meeting. The meeting minutes will record which administrator or councillor spoke on each motion and recorded who voted in favour, in opposition or abstained from voting against each of the motions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Administrators, any questions in relation to item 5.4.2? I also have no questions, but I'm very happy to move the officer recommendation for item 5.4.2. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I just wanted to make a couple of comments in relation to the governance rules, and firstly just to note that I think that this is the fourth time since we've been appointed as administrators that we have considered the governance rules, or it might be, I think it is 4 times. And that's really just the indication of the importance of ongoing continuous improvement in relation to something as important as the council governance rules. And again, importantly, we need to make sure that the rules have been reviewed again in the transition period from administrators to an elected council. Jacinta's highlighted a number of the real important differences from these governance rules to the last rules, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of elements which I strongly support. The requirement that we do have to consider each agenda item individually and not move the agenda items en bloc. And this has actually been the practice of administrators since we've been appointed. We have not resolved en bloc, but that provision was not embedded in the governance rules. But also just in relation to the election period policy, the ability for the CEO to be able to publicly correct inaccurate information or statements made by candidates, I think is really important. And finally, the strengthening of the use of council resources during the caretaker period, which I believe has certainly been a point of contention at some councils. So I strongly support the revisions to the governance rules and I'm very happy to resolve on them. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. As you've stated, we've seen this 4 times now, which is fantastic just to keep a continuous improvement and refinement. And I think now that we have the election period policy embedded as well, I think that's very good because obviously we are going to be coming into campaign season, and it's great that potential candidates and potential councillors will be able to see exactly what the governance rules are, but also what the policy is for the election period as well, and be really clear about that. So great piece of work by the team and great for the community to be able to see the next iteration of this important document.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.4.3, updated community engagement policy, and if I could invite our Executive Manager of Public Affairs, Janine Morgan, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. The purpose of this report tonight is to present an update to our community engagement policy. Under the Local Government Act, councils are required to have a community engagement policy to provide genuine and meaningful engagement with our community. We had our first policy of this nature in 2021 that was approved by council, and tonight we're presenting to you an update to that policy, and I'd like to introduce our Manager of Communications and Engagement, Sarah, to take you through the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janine, and good evening, Council. The updated community engagement policy aims to build trust between the community and Council by demonstrating how opinions are sought, valued and considered in shaping the future of our city. The policy explains why and how we engage with our community and how feedback is used. While the updated policy is not substantially different in its intent to the original, it seeks to reflect the maturity of community engagement at the City of Whittlesea. Key differences in this updated policy include a clearer focus on clarifying expectations and articulating our commitment to the engagement principles as outlined in the Local Government Act. We have sought to be clear about our community's level of influence. Council will use community feedback to inform decision-making alongside other factors including research, best practice, legislation, risk, budget and specialist technical advice. The policy articulates circumstances where engagement may be limited or not appropriate, and it ensures all relevant legislation is referred to clearly. The policy reiterates Council's commitment to ensuring the voices of our diverse community are heard and considered in Council's decision-making. Our approach is guided by the International Association of Public Participation, IAP2 Spectrum of Engagement, which is recognised worldwide as a best practice tool. Since the inaugural policy's inception, we have significantly grown our engagement program. We've consulted on more than 100 projects and programs, both online and in person. In this time, we have developed our Engage Whittlesea online platform where we have reached some 70,000 people with more than 12,000 contributions made. The goals for the second iteration of the policy are to further develop our consultation with traditionally underrepresented cohorts, including our Aboriginal communities, CALD communities and people with a disability. We are also continuing our journey towards more deliberative practices. The updated policy before you this evening seeks to foster community connection, collaboration and civic participation. With your endorsement, we propose to seek community feedback on this draft before bringing it back to Council for consideration later in the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Administrators, do you have any questions in relation to this item?
No questions, Chair.
No, Chair.
I also have no questions. So do I have a mover for item 5.4.3?
I'm happy to move it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara, would you like to speak to the
Thank you,
item?
Chair. I'd be delighted to. This is great work. It does reflect the maturing, I think, of our organisation's approach in relation to community engagement, which I think was already at a high level. And this takes it really, I think, to a further plane again. Chair, I think I just make the observation that some people, perhaps tuning into our discussion tonight, might think community engagement, that's just PR. It's just spin. But actually that couldn't be more wrong. Community engagement is really at the heart of how we operate as a municipal administration. And it gives people, ordinary people in the community, our ratepayers and residents, an opportunity to have their voice heard. Not by sitting at this table, but by expressing their views through processes of community engagement that they can have confidence in. And that's why this policy is so important, because community engagement is also about good governance. And good governance at a principles level involves making sure that all members of the community get a chance to have their voices heard at deliberative forums like this and through processes that we oversee. One of the things I like about this work is that there's an acknowledgement that this is a work in progress, if you like. A bit like we were talking about before in relation to our sort of governance here at the council. So community engagement is something we think about. We work hard to always seek to improve and to get as much of a diversity of perspectives in our decision-making so we make the best decisions. So there will be other iterations of this in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and they won't be failures, that there's further iterations, they'll be successes, because it means that our team is continuing to evolve and meet the needs of the community. I just finish on this point, Chair, that the City of Whittlesea, as many people have observed, is without doubt one of the most diverse places in Australia. And that makes this work more important than it might in a more homogenous municipality. So we've got people from a great many different cultural and national backgrounds. We've got people from really every corner of the world and a great diverse community, which is a real strength. But only if we harness all of those perspectives in our decision making, and that's what this work is all about. So I commend our team and the work and look forward to hopefully many people contributing further through this public participation process to give us their thoughts and their input on how to make it even better.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Administrator Zara's stolen a bit of my thunder, so I'll have to dig deep here. But I think this is a great piece of work. Again, giving the community the opportunity to give us the feedback on what's important to them and being very clear and transparent, and I hate to say that, but just given what we've just done around the transparency policy about how and when we will consult. And I think that's and engage, and I think that's very important so that community can then put a lens on what is most important to them, no matter what part of the municipality they live in, that they can have a say and that we do take feedback seriously. It's not just window dressing. You know, this is their community and we need them to help us shape that for them and the future. So I'll be really looking forward to see what consultation comes back through this, nearly a month's worth of consultation. So I hope everyone puts their 2 bobs worth in it and gives us some feedback on this, but great work by the team.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I just simply, because it's such an important policy, just wanted to make a point as well that I totally concur with the sentiments of my colleagues. And I too welcome the further comments from community members. I think that comment that Administrator Zara made about these policies are evolutionary, and the fact that in this instance we're also going to have a real focus on trying to look at the traditionally harder to reach and or underrepresented groups, I think is a really great refinement in relation to this policy. So I also commend the policy and thank officers for all their work. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.4.4, Councillor Communications Policy, and if I could again invite our Executive Manager Public Affairs to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to present the Councillor Communications Policy for your consideration. This policy replaces a historic communications and public comment policy, and it sits alongside a suite of other policies, some of which you've considered this evening. So that will support the return of elected councillors in 2024. So again, I'd like to ask our Manager for Communications and Engagement, Sarah, to introduce the report.
Thank you. This policy supports the delivery of high-quality external communications within the City of Whittlesea community and is underpinned by principles of accessibility, accuracy, inclusivity and transparency. It supports Council to present a consistent voice and message to our diverse community to ensure they are both informed and engaged. It clearly outlines the roles and function of councillors and mayor, in particularly in relation to the provision of public comment and the role of spokesperson. The policy seeks to ensure a structured framework for communication activities. Council's external communication channels will be used to inform the community of key decisions, services, programs, events and initiatives to build civic pride, to promote transparency and accountability of Council's decision-making processes and to promote opportunities for community participation and engagement. The policy ensures roles are clear and councillors and council staff are empowered to deliver excellent external communication to the City of Whittlesea community in line with their roles, responsibilities and delegations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Any questions, administrators, in relation to this item?
None, Chair.
Administrator Duncan? I also have no questions. Do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4.4? I think Administrator Duncan's indicated that
Yeah, I'm
she's
happy
happy
to
to
move
move this
this, Chair.
item. Do I have a seconder? Thank you,
Thank you.
Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. I needed to get in first there, Administrator Zara. I don't have a lot to say, but again, a very good piece of work and very clear to set the expectation around what's expected when you become a councillor. And I think that's great for everybody, including those that are going to be the elected council and for staff, and what community can expect from their elected councillors. So great piece of work. So well done to everybody.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief as well. It's more contemporising. We're bringing things up to date and I think improving in this updated version. And I think, as Administrator Duncan said, it's important to consider we will have elected councillors returning to their role in about a year. And it's important to be clear about roles and responsibilities in these areas so that people can come into those roles with those things very plainly set out in black and white and up to date, not something that is a sort of legacy from several years ago which is in need of updating and there's confusion at the beginning. So I think this really puts the council, the councillors and whoever it is that becomes the first mayor after this period of the administration panel in the best position of succeeding and really being a high-functioning group.
Thank you, administrators. Well said, and I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.4.5, Advisory Committee, Epping Cemetery Trust. And if I could invite Sarah Renner, Director of Customer and Corporate Services, to introduce this item.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Chair. This report outlines details of the recent meeting of the Epping Cemetery Trust, and I will now ask George, our Unit Manager, Strategic Property, to talk to the report.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, administrators. This report is aimed to inform Council about the decisions of the Epping Cemetery Trust, but it's also asking Council to establish a Community Asset Committee to assist with the management of a community asset, which is ours. It's Crown land, but we manage the cemetery. The Epping Cemetery Trust is it's an independent body, and it's represented by 3 trustees, our chair and 2 administrators. And at the Epping Cemetery Trust meeting of the 22nd of August, the Trust resolved to expand the number of trustees to a maximum of 5, comprising at least 3 councillors and up to 2 council officers nominated by the Chief Executive Officer. The Epping Cemetery Trust is also determined to encourage input from our community, and the cemetery, as I mentioned before, is a community asset, and it has cultural and historical significance. So a committee that can assist the Trust with management of the council assets and improve public awareness would be a really, really great thing. The council could also use the Trust and certainly the voice of a committee to reach out to family members, and this would also assist the Trust to understand community perspectives. The Trust is asking Council to establish a community asset committee under the Local Government Act and this is represented by the terms of reference that we've included in the report. This would comprise of a minimum of 3 community members and a maximum of 5, initially appointed by the CEO, and once a committee is in place, they would once again be appointed by the CEO upon the recommendation of the committee. So the recommendation is to certainly note the decisions of the Trust and also to ask Council to establish that Community Asset Committee.
Thank you very much, George. Any questions, administrators, in relation to this item?
None, Chair.
No, I also have no questions. So do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4.5? And I note Administrator Zara had indicated he is happy to move it, with Administrator Duncan seconding it. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. This is great work by our team. Congratulate them on getting to this point. Chair, it won't be a surprise to, I think, people listening to our discussion today that this is something we consider to be serious and important business, because cemeteries are so important in the cultural life and history of not just our municipality, but every municipality. So this is incredibly important, and there are people who will have loved ones buried at this cemetery, and important members of the family historically there for previous generations. So it's got great significance, great importance to them. So we have to be careful in what we do and recognise the rich history and the sensitivity, the family sensitivity to every decision that we make, in an even more acute way, I think, in some ways, than some of the other decisions that we make around this table. One thing that I'd add, Chair, to perhaps make an obvious point, but to perhaps make it in a sort of very deliberate way, so people can, I think, really hear a direct message about what we're doing here, is we're basically broadening and deepening the level of community participation in what we do in supporting the work of the Trust. And that's really important, because more voices, more perspectives, I think, adds to the quality of our decision making. And given those sensitivities, makes a great deal of sense to me. So I congratulate our team in the careful way in which they've managed those interactions with families, with people in the local community, for whom this is a really treasured community asset. So support this recommendation. Congratulate our team again.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan. I think Administrator Zara really covered off on all of the key points, so I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again. Item 5.4.6 is the certification of the 2022-23 financial statements and performance statement. And again, if I could ask our Director of Customer and Corporate Services to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. As mentioned, the purpose of this report is to present to Council the 2022-23 annual financial statements and performance statement for adoption. I will now ask Aaron, our Chief Financial Officer, to talk to the report.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. The financial statements were prepared and audited by Council's audit service provider, RSD, on behalf of the Victorian Auditor General's Office, and was presented and reviewed at the Audit and Risk Committee meeting on Tuesday, 5th of September, with the recommendation from the meeting to Council to approve the financial statements in principle for signing. Subsequent to this meeting, Council were advised that the financial statements and performance statement have been cleared by the Victorian Auditor General's Office and are now fine to be signed, with the Auditor General's Office expecting to express an unqualified opinion on the financial statements and performance statement. I'll talk briefly to Council's financial performance for the year. Council recorded an accounting surplus from operations of $133.6 million, which I'd like to highlight to Council that this is an accounting result only and is calculated to comply with the requirements of Australian accounting standards, and importantly, does not constitute excess cash available for Council to spend. This is due to the fact that council's surplus is largely made up of either non-cash items, such as asset contributions from developers, or cash items that are restricted in how they can be used in future by council. To highlight the significance of this to council, non-monetary contributions received during the year were $100.7 million. Monetary contributions from developers were $23.2 million, and non-recurrent capital grants received were $11.3 million, and when combined, exceeds council's reported accounting surplus. For this reason, council's underlying surplus is a much better indicator of operating financial performance for the year. Council's underlying surplus for the year, excluding both monetary and non-monetary contributions, as discussed, as well as non-recurrent capital grants, amounted to a deficit of $1.6 million. Whilst recording an underlying deficit is not sustainable in the longer term, in the 2022-23 financial year, the deficit was largely driven by the write-off of assets, $9.7 million, which is a non-cash item and we wouldn't foresee occurring on a regular basis in the future. I'll also touch on the fact that the report also highlights or outlines the results of council's financial sustainability indicators for the year. Now, these are measures that are reviewed by the Victorian Auditor General's Office on an annual basis and are used to assess the financial sustainability of council. Council recorded 4 low risk rated items, 3 medium risk rated items, and no high risk items for the year, which emphasises there are no concerns surrounding council's long-term financial sustainability. I propose the recommendations as outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I just wonder if I could start off with a question. I note in the officer report that the Audit and Risk Committee, and I was obviously at that meeting, discussed and reviewed the annual financial report and the annual performance statement with a representative of council's external auditor, and that minor amendments were recommended. I just wonder, for the purposes of transparency, whether you could just provide a really quick outline of what those minor adjustments were.
Thank you, Chair. Some of the minor adjustments were just to the wording of some of the variance analysis. It was just really minor tweaks to the words provided in the reports.
So in other words, with some of the notes and so forth, with the attachments, there was some better clarification.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, administrators?
None, Chair.
Can I just a follow-up question? So, Aaron, was it just a amendment to the narrative that was presented in the report?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4.6?
I'm happy to do it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. I'm happy to second the officer recommendation for item 5.4.6. Administrator Zara.
Most important parts of the work that we do in obviously considering this report and approving, and I look forward, along with yourself, Chair, to formally signing these reports off at the conclusion of what's been an important and very thorough process.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Given that we had such a wonderful summary of all of the key elements of the financial statements and the performance statement, I don't think that there's a lot that we can add. I just want to really again congratulate council officers for the enormous amount of work that has gone into the preparation of these really important statements. And obviously they've been carefully reviewed by the Audit and Risk Committee. And again, can I just commend you for your very comprehensive explanation of the surplus, because that is an item that often confuses people, and I think the fact that you always explain that it is actually restricted is a really important element. So again, congratulations, and please pass on our expression of thanks to the team. Thank you. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. You left before the main vote. Thank you. Item 5.4.7, rescinding urban nature strip guidelines. And if I could ask Debbie Wood, our Director of Infrastructure and Environment, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. I will be talking to this item. So this report just seeks to rescind the current urban nature strip guidelines. These guidelines were endorsed by Council in 2013, but became effective in January 2015. New guidelines have been developed, which will replace these guidelines, and they're more contemporary in use, and also really trying to proactively encourage the use of nature strips for greening purposes in our city. So consultation has been undertaken with the new guidelines, which are the Nature Strip Garden Guidelines, and these have been endorsed by ELT and will be presented to Council in a coming briefing. And so just hence we need to rescind the 2013 guidelines, and the recommendation is just as per the report. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Could I just clarify, given that you indicated that there are the new guidelines that have already gone through the executive leadership team process, what's the process by which they will actually then be available for the community?
Yeah, they'll be presented on our website for the community to know, and then they'll be able to be engaged with it through that.
And is that imminent?
Yeah, the 1st of October, I think we're trying to get them up.
Excellent. Thank you. Administrators, any further questions in relation to this item?
I just have one question, if I could, through you, Chair. In the report, there's a reference to turf and tree is now considered the default treatment, not the preferred one. And we want to encourage and facilitate community expression in order to realise the social and environmental benefits a more diverse nature strip will bring. I think that sounds fantastic, and I'm sure we'd be broadly in agreement with that. Is it the case that when those updated new guidelines are published, that's what those people who might be tuning in today and have a keen interest in this could expect to see? Something which basically adds a bit more detail to what's in the report.
Yes. Yeah, as in what can be put onto the nature strips? Is that your question?
That's my question.
Yeah.
I guess I'm asking, people will want to know, will there be more detail which will make plain exactly what that means?
Yeah, the guidelines has a lot of detail about what can be planted, how it can be planted, offsets that are required from curbs and footpaths, all those sort of things. So the actual guidelines themselves have a lot of detail in them around what they can look like.
Excellent, that's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Any further questions? So do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4.7, Administrator Zara? And I can see Administrator Duncan wants to second the item. Administrator Zara, would you like to speak to the item?
Very briefly, Chair, but this will be, I think, well received. And obviously it's an important step in the process. And I think that there is a lot of creativity in the community in relation to nature strips, and that's what's intimated here in the report and alluded to. So we look forward to, I think, those details being made public, and I'm sure there will be many a creative expression for community gardening that we'll see across the city of Whittlesea as a result of this policy. I look forward to seeing that.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Any further comments, Administrator Duncan?
I think this is a great opportunity to show your creative flair as part of the community and beautify your street with your neighbours, and I think Bunnings are about to do a roaring trade, so I hope everybody enjoys themselves.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.4.8, the draft livable neighbourhood strategy. And if I could introduce Sarah Rowe, Manager Economic Development, to introduce this item. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to be introducing the draft livable neighbourhood strategy, which outlines Council's approach to creating and maintaining livable neighbourhoods over the next 10 years that are attractive and well planned, that meet the needs of our current and existing communities. This strategy has strong synergies with the draft long-term community infrastructure plan and the draft connected communities strategy, which were prepared concurrently and also feature in tonight's agenda. I have the pleasure to now hand over to Catherine, Council's Coordinator, Planning Policy and Implementation Officer, to take you through the report. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. The draft Livable Neighbourhood Strategy is one of 7 new consolidated strategies developed under Council's integrated planning framework. As Sarah outlined, it's been prepared in close collaboration with the officers preparing the draft Connected Community Strategy and the draft Long-Term Community Infrastructure Plan, which are also being considered tonight. The draft strategy implements the key directions for livable neighbourhoods set out in Council's vision, Whittlesea 2040, A Place for All. And these are smart connected transport network, well-designed neighbourhoods and vibrant town centres, and housing for diverse needs. The draft strategy consolidates relevant existing policies and endorsed council positions, and has been prepared with significant input from across the organisation to make sure it's consistent with our organisational goals, priorities and strategies. It's also been informed by previous community consultation, which recently include the Whittlesea 2040 Community Consultation Program, Community Plan Consultation and 2021 Household Survey. The strategy presents key achievements to date and details future priorities across the themes of public space and infrastructure, activity centres, integrated transport and housing. The draft strategy takes a place-based approach to planning, service and infrastructure delivery so that people can meet most of their daily needs close to where they live. In essence, the draft strategy seeks to plan for neighbourhoods where our community is able to thrive. The next phase of this project is to undertake community consultation starting this Friday until the 27th of October. This will be similar to the process we typically undertake for the draft budget and draft community plan action plan, and is planned to include pop-ups in high foot traffic locations, publication on the Engage Whittlesea page, and a third community focus group which follows up with a group we brought together across 2 sessions in June. And we're now seeking your approval to proceed with that community consultation.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Can I just clarify a point? Obviously, we're considering the 3 draft strategies this evening. I presume they'll all be going out for community consultation concurrent. And can you just confirm the dates? Because I think you said the 27th of October, but I think we and the council report might have actually said the 29th of October.
Thank you. That is correct, the 29th.
Perfect.
It has been extended till the 29th. And yes, the community consultation will be for all 3 strategies.
Thank you. Administrators, any other questions on this item?
Not from me, Chair, thank you.
No? I'm happy to then move item 5.4.8, but with some adjustments to the recommendations. And so for number 1, that Council endorses the draft City of Whittlesea Livable Neighbourhood Strategy at attachment 1 for a 5-week period of community consultation. for a 5-week period of community consultation from the 22nd of September until the 29th of October 2023. And a new Part 3, which reads, notes that the final livable neighbourhood strategy incorporating feedback from community consultation will be presented to Council for endorsement at the 19th of December 2023 Council meeting. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, and perhaps just to note at the outset that the comments I'm about to make actually relate across to the 3 draft strategies. I'm not moving them en bloc. However, I'm making a number of comments that apply across the 3 because they're in essence a really important suite of key strategic documents. And I'm incredibly excited that the 3 strategies that we're considering this evening in essence complete the integrated planning framework that we adopted in 2021. And I must admit I had my reservations in 2021 when we were adopting it, but I think it's an exceptional framework, and I really do want to congratulate staff for the massive amount of work that's gone into the whole integrated suite of strategies, and that has obviously been to rationalise the 100 different policies into the suite of 7 consolidated strategies. And I think the comments made in all 3 about the reduction in the complexity and really that age-old dilemma that we've got multiple strategies sitting on the shelf. They're not really, they're not live documents that are easy to follow and to be able to report on. I also just wanted to note that I strongly support the fact that we've used so much previous community consultation in the development of these integrated new strategies, because we've obviously used the feedback from the Whittlesea 2040, the community plan, our household survey, as well as multiple engagement activities that have occurred over the past few years, as well as a number of focus groups. So now it's an opportunity for us to just go back out to the community to test whether that huge body of work that's already occurred, we've captured it accurately within these key strategic documents. And I really look forward to hearing back from the community and just to see whether they have felt that we've captured all of that enormous amount of feedback that has occurred over many years. So I'm very, very excited and happy to move I won't say all 3, but I'm happy to move this item. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. This is a massive piece of work, and we're not doing this en bloc, but it's really from where we've started to where this has come to tonight with all 3 draft strategies that are going out for consultation for the final time. They all are interlinked. So to have that at the one time for all of the community to look at all 3 and see how it all works together and give their final round of feedback to just round this right off and then bring it back to Council in December, I think has been a massive task and a lot of work, but it's for the betterment of the community, and they'll see that. And the fact that we have consulted before, so their feedback we've really listened to, and now we're sort of testing that once and for all. Is this right across the whole 3? But talking about the first one, I think it's a fantastic piece of work. So congratulations to all of the team.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara, did you want to make any further comments at this stage?
Well, I think we're all making comments about not speaking en bloc, but it's impossible not to note that these are three in a set, and so my comments in relation to this really extend to the other matters as well. Chair, it is comprehensive work by our team. They are all so closely interrelated and have very much at the heart the idea, I think, of making our community live up to our aspiration of being a place for all, and having communities that work, you know, and are livable, and really enhance the lives of the people who live within our municipality. It is great work, Chair, and this, along with the other matters, which we will consider independently one of the other, are all excellent and interrelated pieces of work that will all serve that objective of making our community a great place to live.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. So I'm going to put the motion to a vote, but it's actually, this is the council recommendation as opposed to the officer recommendation. So I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again. Number 2 in the suite of integrated planning reports this evening is item 5.4.9, which is the draft long-term community infrastructure plan. And again, if I could invite our Director of Community Wellbeing to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so this is the second of the suite of 3 documents from the Integrated Planning Framework that you will be considering tonight. So the Long-Term Community Infrastructure Plan outlines Council's ongoing future investment in all of our community facilities, so sporting infrastructure, kinders and the like. So I will hand over to Steve, who is our Acting Manager of Strategic Projects, to take us through.
Thank you.
Thank you, Agata, and thank you, Chair. Try again. Thank you, Agata, and thank you, Chair. The draft long-term community infrastructure plan contains Council's blueprint for investing in building and spaces that promote access to services supporting health, wellbeing and lifelong learning. The draft plan outlines the strategic and capital delivery actions expected to commence in the next 10 years and includes community centres, halls, libraries, kindergarten, maternal and child health centres, art spaces and sports and leisure facilities. The draft long-term community infrastructure plan is based on robust evidence with a strong focus on community engagement and service-based reviews, which included incorporating findings from the Whittlesea 2040 community consultation and the current community plan consultation program, and community consultation focusing on infrastructure and service needs completed over the last 14 months, including numerous focus groups, phone interviews, stakeholder groups, interviews, surveys and workshops. From this, 7 key community infrastructure principles were established, setting out the underlying philosophy that guides the prioritisation, planning, delivery and activation of City Whittlesea's community infrastructure. 2 of these principles include service-led and local response, highlighted due to their influence to move away from traditional approach of benchmarking and instead focusing on the distinct characteristics and the needs of the local communities. Some of the key priorities outlined in strategy include meeting the infrastructure needs of the Victorian Government's early childhood education reform, delivering new multipurpose community centres and sporting facilities in the growing northern suburbs, and increasing access to library services. If endorsed, community consultation will commence on the 22nd of September for the next 5 weeks, as previously discussed. Face-to-face and online opportunities will be undertaken with key advisory and stakeholder representatives. Once complete, the final long-term community infrastructure plan, incorporating the relevant feedback, would be presented to Council for endorsement at the 19th of December 2023 Council meeting. This report is seeking endorsement for the draft long-term community infrastructure plan to proceed to public consultation.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
No, Chair.
I also have no questions. So do I have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.4.9?
So moved.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Sorry,
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Administrator Duncan for reminding me about a matter. Yes, Chair, if I could please propose to move a motion different than the officer recommendation. So I would like to change in at 1, as it appears on the screen, that the period referred to in the recommendation as 6 weeks should be 5 weeks. I think that's right.
A suggestion would be if you just move it as is, and I might move an amendment to the officer
Sure.
recommendation.
Happy to do that. Sorry for the confusion, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. My amendment would be to part... I need a seconder before I can move the amendment. Do I have a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. My proposed amendments to Part 1, which would be endorses the draft City of Whittlesea long-term community infrastructure plan at attachment 1 for a 5-week period of community consultation from 22nd of September until 29th of October 2023. And I now need Administrator Zara to confirm that he accepts the amendment.
I accept the amendment, which is a great improvement.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. So, Administrator Zara, would you like to speak to this item?
No, Chair, thank you.
Given that we made the comments earlier that we indicated quite clearly are applicable across the 3 strategies, all I just wanted to note is, again, this is absolutely brilliant work. There's a huge amount of research and it's evidence-based, and clearly in terms of planning long-term our infrastructure development across the city, I think it really stands us in good stead. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. If we now move to item 5.5.1, the draft connected community strategy, and if I could again invite our Director of Community Wellbeing to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the last of the 3 strategies tonight, but certainly not the least. It's the draft connected community strategy, which is about what we're going to do to create a safe, connected and welcoming and connected community. So I will introduce Jenny, who is our Acting Unit Manager of Social Planning, to talk to the report.
Thank you, Agatha. Thank you. Sorry, thank you, Agatha. Good evening. So the Connected Community Strategy 2023-28 outlines Council's commitment to fostering an inclusive, healthy, safe and welcoming place where all residents are celebrated and supported and feel a sense of belonging. You've heard a bit about our strategy development, but very similar to the others, our strategy has been informed by data analysis and trends in our community, as well as engagement with the community, including all of the aspects you've heard around the community plan, the City of Whittlesea Great Place Work, Whittlesea 2040, sorry, I'm tripping over my words, and also engagement with the community, particularly through focus groups in June, which has been really helpful. So it identifies 24 priorities under the key directions of a socially cohesive community, a healthy and safe community, and a participating community. And while there are many areas we could highlight, some of the examples of areas Council will focus on over the next 10 years through this strategy include advancing gender equality, improving physical and mental wellbeing, providing services for people at all stages of life, and creating culturally safe and accessible spaces. So if the strategy is endorsed tonight, it will be made available for community consultation, as you've heard, from the 22nd of September to the 29th of October, where community members will have the opportunity to provide feedback, and we really look forward to seeing how it lands with the community. There will be face-to-face as well as online opportunities to participate. So we would like to recommend that this draft strategy is endorsed for community consultation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Administrators, do you have any questions in relation to this item?
No, Chair.
I also have no questions, but I'm happy to move the recommendation with one adjustment, which will be no surprise, and it would read, it's adjustment to number 1, endorses the draft City of Whittlesea Connected Community Strategy at Attachment 1 for a 5-week period of community consultation from 22nd of September until 29th October 2023. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. You've heard all our comments earlier, and so we're not going to repeat them again, but it's important again that we acknowledge the enormous amount of work that's gone into this really important community strategy, and we're very appreciative of the efforts of staff across the organisation. Thank you. Would you like to speak to the item, Administrator Zara?
Briefly, Chair, because all of these strategies are worthy of our praise, and congratulations to the team who've been so closely involved in bringing it to life. They all do sit together as a set, which is why we're considering it tonight as a set. But there are individual efforts that also require recognition in each, and we really do, as a council, thank our team and all those who participated getting up to this point in each of the different strategies that we're considering tonight. It is all excellent work, and as the Chair said earlier, we're very much looking forward to the public participation and engagement process. Well done.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you again. Item 5.5.2, Youth Council. And just before I hand over to Jacinta to introduce this item, I wonder if I can just acknowledge that we have the Youth Advisory Committee Chair, Angela Rolewska, and the Youth Advisory Committee Deputy Chair, Kainet Verk, watching the live streaming of this particular council meeting, and if we could just acknowledge the enormous contribution that they've made. Thank you, Jacinta.
Thank you, Chair. So administrators, with me this evening is Renee and Alberto from the Youth Development Team. So the Office of the Council and CEO are partnering with the Youth Department in this great opportunity. So we are delighted this report is being presented to Council this evening. The report is seeking approval to transition from a Youth Advisory Committee to a Youth Council. The Youth Council will comprise of a minimum of 15 youth councillors, of which one dedicated for a First Nations young person, who will have the opportunity to represent other young people across our municipality on matters and issues important to them and matters that may impact their relationship with the broader community. The Youth Council will run similar to an elected council and be able to provide advice to council on plans, strategies, policies and projects directly related to young people. The elected council will also be able to seek feedback and input from the youth councils on matters related to young people across our community. Youth councillors can range in age from 12 to 22, and if our proposed recommendation is resolved this evening, we are planning to seek expressions of interest during the month of October. This is an exciting opportunity for our young community members to have a voice and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacinta. Administrators, do you have any questions relating to this item?
I don't, Chair, thank you.
I do, Chair. Can you just confirm that it's from 12 to 22 and not 12 to 20? That's correct. It is 12 to 22. Yes.
Any further questions? Do I then have a mover for the officer recommendation for item 5.5.2? And I can see Administrator Duncan champing at the bit to move this item.
Yes, I'm happy to move this, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Administrator Duncan.
I'm happy to second it, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. I just think this is a fantastic initiative to really empower the youth within the municipality from 12 to 22. Thank you for clarifying that for me. It really gives them an opportunity to have a voice for now and into the future, and a great span of ages as well. I think that's really great, and I'll be very interested to see how the recruiting goes for the Youth Council and some of the advice and opportunities they foresee that will come up to council for us to consider, and also to advocate for their interests and some of the challenges as well that they face within the municipality and also in the broader community of Melbourne. I think they'll have a good impact on that as well, and obviously getting up to Parliament and those types of things I would envisage. So a great opportunity here for our young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Administrator Zara.
Thank you, Chair. I'd certainly echo the comments made by Administrator Duncan. I think this is a really welcome development. It's really adding to the youth voice and youth perspective at the City of Whittlesea. And I think the more that we can do that, the better our decision making is. I know that I've said in other places, Chair, and to you and Administrator Duncan, and indeed officers around the table, that young people, their voice is not heard enough. They are the great inheritors, of course, of decisions that are made by people at our point in life around this table, and we should take heed and take care to listen to their point of view, because they will have to live with the consequences of the decisions that we make. So the more we can involve young people, the better our decision making will be. I see this as a step to do that in an even better way, because it's not in any way to take away from the great work that our team and our Youth Advisory Committee have been already doing. I think this just adds to that and gives an even greater focus to the work and really sharpens the way in which we actively involve young people. I just made the point that there aren't enough opportunities for young people in public leadership. And one of the things I really like about what we're doing here is that we're, well, it's not equivalent to the council, but it sort of runs in parallel to the council. And I think the more young people can get a first-hand experience of processes which at least in significant part mirror actual processes that exist in formal decision-making roles within government in particular, but in other roles too, the better prepared they will be to one day sit and exercise responsibilities in places like this. So it's really welcome work. I know from the contact that I've had with young people within our municipality here that we will have absolutely no trouble filling these positions. We've got a remarkably diverse, hugely intelligent, capable, and most importantly of all, passionate group of young people thinking about their community in ways in which so often they're diminished and not thought enough of in terms of the way that they think about and participate. They're so often diminished in the mainstream media and elsewhere. But in fact, that's not been my experience, Chair. I think young people are hugely interested in the future, hugely interested in their community, hugely interested in making the world a better place. So the more we can encourage them through processes like this and take them seriously, the better off we'll all be.
Unbelievable timing. Administrators are 0 seconds left.
They deserved every second.
I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5.5.3, tender evaluation, design and construction of the Aboriginal Gathering Place, Quarry Hills Regional Park, contract number 2023-67. And again, if I could invite our Director of Infrastructure and Environment to introduce this item. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm super excited to be able to present this paper. It's for the award and design and construction of the Aboriginal Gathering Place, as you spoke about. But this is such a significant milestone for such an important project that it's really exciting to be able to bring this to you today. And it's taken many years for us to get here, as Administrator Duncan spoke about earlier. So I have Mark, our Unit Manager of Community Infrastructure Delivery, who will just take you through the paper. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Chair. A business case was approved by Council on the 18th of July 2022 to allocate $10.8 million towards the design and construction of an Aboriginal gathering place at Quarry Hills Regional Park. This project is very important as it will provide a welcoming, inclusive and culturally safe space for the Aboriginal and broader community where people can have a sense of belonging and have access to activities, programs and services which strengthen culture and enhance their well-being. The project includes a number of components including access roads and services, car parking, landscaping and building structures. Separate contracts will be awarded for the delivery of these components. The recommendation of this report is in relation to the award of the contract for the design and construction of the building structures, being a welcome building and a gathering building with a total floor area of 517 square metres. The welcome building includes a welcome space, consulting rooms, administration area and amenities. And the gathering place building consists of a large multi-purpose space, kitchen, meeting space, healing space, storage and amenities. The recommended tenderer is 2 Construct Proprietary Limited and they have submitted a competitive tender prices for the 2 building facade options as shown in the appendix. Option 1 is a simplified facade treatment and option 2 is an enhanced facade treatment. The report recommends option 2, the enhanced facade treatment, at a total fixed price of $5,494,469. The report also recommends that Council delegates to the CEO the authority to approve the design detail of this option within the first month of the contract. The tender from 2 Construct was determined to be the best value by the tender evaluation panel and is considered that this company can undertake the contract scope of works to the required specifications and standards. The works are expected to be completed by the end of the 2024 calendar year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Any questions, administrators?
No questions.
No. I also have no questions. So do I have a mover for item 5.5.3?
Yes, Chair, happy to move.
And I'm very happy to second the officer recommendations as well. Administrator Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a pinnacle moment in this project. It's only taken 20 years to get here, but we're here. And I think great work by all of the team, and to think that we'll start to actually construct in early to mid-24 and it will be hopefully, and so it's contingency I know, but open in 2025. I think that is just an amazing outcome. But we're at the first point here, which is critically important. So thank you to officers and all of the team, but in particular, thank you to the Whittlesea Aboriginal Gathering Place Advisory Group, the WAGPAG, but most particularly, just thank you to the Whittlesea Reconciliation Group, who, as I said earlier tonight, have been advocating for 21 years for this project, and it's not just for our First Nations people. It is, yes, it's a place for them for healing and reconciliation and education and support for their community, but it's a welcoming space as well for non-Aboriginal people to have the opportunity in a fantastic environment and a respectful environment for others to enjoy and learn as well and be educated, and it's a shared space, so we walk together with our Aboriginal people. So well done to all of the team, and it's a very proud night indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. You described this tonight as a pinnacle moment, and I would totally agree with you. This is one of the legacy projects of this group of administrators, and I too am incredibly proud to be resolving on this matter this evening. We were at Quarry Hills Regional Parkland on Friday for the sod turn of the Granite Hills Community Playground, and to now see the resolution on this item as well is really about the important transformation of what is a jewel in the crown at the City of Whittlesea into something even more significant. And obviously there's a lot of cultural significance associated with Quarry Hills Regional Parkland. So I'm also appreciative of the efforts of staff, and as I said, this is a legacy project. Thank you. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. We now move to item 5.5.4, which is our Audit and Risk Committee report on activity. And if I could invite our Executive Manager, Strategy and Insights to provide a brief introduction to this report, but if I could also perhaps just introduce the independent chairperson of our Audit and Risk Committee, Jeff Harry, and Frank might want to do a further introduction and welcome you along to our council meeting. We're delighted to have you in attendance this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will just pass directly over to the independent chair of the Audit and Risk Committee because it is the report from the committee on their activities over the past 12 months. So very pleased to introduce Jeff Harry, who's been the independent chair for the last 6 years, and has another 3 years of tenure in that role.
Thank you.
Good evening, administrators. Thank you for the welcome. It's good to be here. You have the report that the committee approved at our last meeting about a week ago. I thought that probably the best way to deal with this would be to touch on the key points, and then I'm happy to take questions. Just to point out then initially that the role of the Audit and Risk Committee is important to Council. It considers Council's financial reporting, its risk management, systems and internal control, various assurance activities around internal and external audit, and performance regarding legislative and regulatory compliance. So an important role for Council. The other thing to note is that it is the committee is independent of management, so we are oversighting management in terms of those areas that I've just mentioned. This report covers the period of a year. There have been 5 meetings in that time. I should also mention that the committee's charter was approved by the administrators with a revision in March of this year, so it's up to date. In terms of committee membership, we've had a very active, committed membership, administrators and independent members included, and I think we had, except for one illness, it might have been a family bereavement, actually we had 100% attendance for the year at every meeting. That's an excellent commitment. We've enjoyed very strong CEO and exec team support throughout the year, and we've always been appreciative of that. We continue to be so. I note that our internal audit team of Crow and our external audit team of the Victorian Auditor General's Office's agent RSD audit have also performed well. I just referenced the annual work plan. The committee works religiously to our work plan, driven by the requirements in the Charter. It's a key document and we stay focused on that throughout. Earlier tonight, I think you approved the annual financial report and the annual performance statement. So this report really supports that. There's been active consideration of risk during the year and they're listed in the report. We've received a new strategic internal audit plan with the appointment of new internal auditors recently, and that has now been approved and ready to roll, and that will start to roll out as of really now. On compliance and integrity, I'm just going to note that everybody, I think, in the sector is aware of the recent release of Operation Sandon, and I'm thinking that over the next couple of years we will all see that emerge in various ways, and I think it will challenge us. I know the sector is concerned about some of the recommendations and is working on those with government and within the sector. We'll see how that plays out over the next little while. And I would also just say that we've noted that there's been a lot of work done around systems of internal control. Very aware of some major systems projects underway which will change the face, we think, in the way that people are able to engage with council. Very exciting projects. We keep an eye on them because they're big, and we just want to see that they're moving along in the way they should, and we've been delighted so far. I just wanted to make reference to a key thing, and that is to do with a lot of work by senior officers, administrators and the committee over a focus on improving processes throughout the year with a view to improving efficiency, both for support of the committee and the committee itself. And I want to thank everyone for that because it's produced some good outcomes. There were no significant items I need to mention regarding the committee's performance assessment. It remains for me just to say that the committee has appreciated the support from everyone. I've appreciated everybody's involvement, and I've very much enjoyed being involved in the committee. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I was just about to ask if you'd like an extension of time, but that was not required. Administrators, any questions?
I'm obviously a member of the committee along with yourself, Chair, so no questions from me, but just through you to thank Jeff and all the other independents who do such excellent work for us all in their capacity as members of the committee.
Thank you. I'm happy to move the officer recommendation for item 5.5.4. Would you like to be the seconder of this item, Administrator Zara?
I'll be delighted, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, and it's really to echo Administrator Zara's appreciation, and you'll see reflected there, Jeff, recommendation number 2 about the invaluable support to council in addition to discharging the responsibilities of the Charter and providing an enormous amount of insight. The Audit and Risk Committee provides an absolutely critical advisory role to council, and I, for one, but I know it's shared by my colleagues, have really felt that that has been invaluable. I just wanted to note that we've got 4 independent members, which is not necessarily the norm across local government, with amazing complementary skills and abilities, and I think those 4 members have really contributed enormously in relation to all of the issues that have been considered by the Risk and Audit Committee. And I just want to particularly acknowledge your role as the chair of the committee, because we know that you've put in a huge amount of time and effort, far in excess of what are the real requirements of that role. So I just want to really acknowledge on behalf of Council the wonderful support that we have been provided and advice by particularly the independent members on the Audit and Risk Committee.
Thanks, Chair. I'll pass that on as well.
Thank you. And I'd like to also just invite Administrator Zara to say a few words if you'd like to.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. I completely support the comments that you've made on behalf of us as a council, and just through you again to Jeff, express our appreciation for all the work that Jeff does as Chair, and also the other independent members. I'd agree with your observation, Chair, about the complementary skill sets that all of the independent members bring to that committee. Their experience is extensive, and the breadth of their experience, I think, across each of the four of them is a great asset to us as the City of Whittlesea. It's not just, if you like, something which is, if you like, to the side of the main body of work that Council needs to do. It is very much at the centre of the work that the Council needs to do. And I feel confident as we think about the transition to an elected Council that with the support of the Audit and Risk Committee, we've been able to really, I think, strengthen that function and have it operating at a very high level, which will be a great asset to the new elected Council when it is in place towards the end of next year. So thank you, Jeff, and through you to all of our independent members.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. And again, we thank you for coming along to the council meeting this evening, Jeff. Thank you. I note that there are no notices of motion this evening. Administrators, are there any urgent business items this evening?
Yes, Chair. I wish to move a procedural motion to include a matter of urgent business this evening. The motion relates to the scheduling of a council meeting on the 12th of October 2023.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan, would you like to second the procedural motion?
Yes, Chair.
I'll now put the procedural motion to include a matter of urgent business to the vote. All those in favour? That motion is carried. Now, Administrator Zara, would you like to move a motion?
I would, Chair. I would like to move a motion that a virtual council meeting is scheduled on the 12th of October 2023 at 10 a.m. for the following items of business to be transacted. The consideration and adoption of the 2022-2023 annual report, the appointment of an acting chair administrator to fulfil legislative requirements of the Mayor between the period 16 October 2023 and 5 November 2023. The Chair Administrator is required to report on the implementation of the Council plan by presenting the annual report at a Council meeting open to the public by 31 October 2023. As the Chair Administrator will be absent from the October Council meeting, an unscheduled meeting is required to meet legislative requirements.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. Administrator Duncan, do you second the motion?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Administrator Zara, would you like to speak to the motion now?
Extremely briefly, Chair, this is an important procedural and technical resolution which is needed for the reasons articulated in the motion itself. It is something that is a small thing but important thing for us to resolve on tonight and make sure is in place.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. If we now move to reports of council representatives and CEO update, and if I could just present a very quick report in relation to some key activities over the past month. I attended another meeting of the Yarra Plenty Regional Library Corporation. It was a board meeting, and some really important items on that agenda, including an overview of the City of Whittlesea Library Review. I attended alongside my colleague Administrator Zara 2 meetings of the Audit and Risk Committee during that period, and then alongside the CEO we attended the Northern Councils Alliance, which is an important grouping of the northern group of councils with some a key focus on advocacy, collective advocacy. And then, in addition, I attended again with the CEO the meeting at Parliament House for the launch of Interface Week. We were very fortunate to have a meeting with the Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Melissa Horn, in August. So we were lucky that she came out to meet with administrators and the CEO. We had a wonderful viewing of the Whittlesea U3A new facility in Layla, which was really good to see their new premises. We had 2 coffees with council over the preceding period, one at Westfield Plenty Valley and the other one was as recent as today at Mernda, and both of those sessions were very well attended by residents, and we've had some really useful discussion and feedback. I'll only just also highlight the fact that we had the citizenship ceremonies on Sunday. It was Australian Citizenship Day, and I was fortunate enough to preside at the 2 sessions with 280 new citizens calling the City of Whittlesea home. So a number of really important activities over the preceding period, and I'm happy to respond to any questions that my colleagues might have. No? Thank you. Administrator Duncan, would you like to just provide an overview of your activities as well?
Thank you, Chair. A lot of those things I went to with yourself and Administrator Zara, so I'm not going to repeat those. They'll be on public record. I did attend, however, obviously the Whittlesea Reconciliation Group 21st birthday celebration, as I mentioned at the commencement of this meeting in the acknowledgements, and also a Whittlesea Reconciliation Group meeting of the group, and a citizenship ceremony which was conducted yesterday for 140 people. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Any questions, Administrator Zara, of Administrator Duncan? No. Then I will invite you to provide a bit of an overview as well. Thank you.
The beauty of my overview is that yourself and Administrator Duncan have covered it, and there's only one thing that we didn't all do together that is worth mentioning, which is my participation as a presiding officer at a citizenship ceremony just yesterday, which are always such happy and delightful events to go to. So I congratulate again all of those people who took the great and final step in many ways in becoming Australians, of becoming formally Australian citizens.
Thank you, Administrator Zara. I might now hand over to the CEO to also provide an update on key activities over the last month.
Thank you, Chair. With the warmer weather now upon us, it's time for all of us to start thinking about summer and being prepared for fire. Many suburbs in the City of Whittlesea are surrounded by grasslands, like areas like Wollert, Mernda, Doreen and Donnybrook, and it's important for residents in those areas to understand the fire risk and what to do in an emergency. We've got lots of useful information on our website. If you visit whittlesea.vic.gov.au/emergency, it'll provide you advice of how to prepare. On Tuesday the 10th of October, there's an information session being held in the Whittlesea Township, organised by the CFA, the Whittlesea and Surrounds Fireguard Group, the City of Whittlesea and the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action. and you can register for that event by visiting our website or calling our customer services. Expressions of interest for the City of Whittlesea's next intake of the Community Leadership Program are now open, and they're running through until Tuesday the 26th of September. It's a free program endorsed by Council, which is designed for those wanting to lead community projects, establish personal and professional connections and learn more about government. And again, you can register on our website. We were pleased earlier this month to host the hugely successful Walking Thomastown event. We had thousands of people enjoying live performances, breathtaking light installations, sculptures, art, live music, magicians and a whole range of family entertainment. The event was a great success. The weather was good and got lots of people out and about learning about Thomastown in particular. Representatives from the City of Whittlesea joined local state member for Mill Park, Lily D'Ambrosio, last week in visiting 2 recent additions to our shared path network. The first and second stages of the Yanyin Pipe Track. It's a 1.6 kilometre stretch of cycling and walking path that connects the Darrabin Creek Trail and the Mernda Rail Line. And we also visited stages 3, 4 and 5 of the Henderson's Creek Trail, and that's a 2.6 kilometre shared path between McDonald's Road and Findon Road and Gordons Road. Both of those projects were made possible by funding from Council and 2 separate $1 million grants from the Victorian Government Northern Metropolitan Trails Program, for which we're very grateful. This month we're celebrating Victorian Youth Fest. It's a month-long festival recognising and celebrating the achievements of young people, showcasing the vibrant role that they play in our community, much to Administrator Zara's comments earlier on. The City of Whittlesea is hosting a range of accessible and inclusive events for young people across September school holidays, giving them the opportunity to connect with peers and take part in new experiences. And again, all the information on our website. And finally, the Victorian Seniors Festival, which runs through October. And of course, with 18% of our population aged 60 years and older, it's a great opportunity for us to recognise and celebrate the contribution of our senior residents in our community. Throughout the month, older residents will be able to take part in a range of events while strengthening their social bonds through many exciting and free activities and workshops. And again, details on our website or by contacting our customer services, both here and at the new Whittlesea Hub. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Craig. Some really important items that you've highlighted this evening. Any questions, administrators?
Yes, Chair. The Walking Thomastown event, Craig, was that the most popular? No, let me say this again. Thousands of people. Was the amount of participation far greater than ever before?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my understanding it was higher than we'd experienced before,
Yeah.
and we think that might be in part that it was actually for the first time held at a different time of the year. If you remember, the previous event was cancelled due to bad weather, and we think the slightly warmer weather and the lighter night might have actually increased participation, which was fantastic.
And I can see our Director of Community Wellbeing nodding in relation to that.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
because it's a spectacular event and just shifting it obviously has worked, so well done.
Thank you, and I'll pass that on to the team.
Thank you. Thank you. I note that all of our verbal reports will be documented in the minutes. Administrators, I now require a motion to close the meeting to the public under section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 for the consideration of confidential items, item 9.4.1, CEO Employment Matters. Do I have a mover to close the meeting for consideration of confidential items?
So moved, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Zara.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll now put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. And that brings us to the end of the open meeting, and therefore I close the open meeting at 8:38 p.m. Thank you.